Hi, my name is Zach Isaacson, and this is my final project, my presentation for CIT 260, Object-Oriented Programming with Brother Jackson. Today, I would like to talk about static and non-static variables, the difference between arrays, array lists, and enums, and give examples of when we used an code to find a certain index in an array list. I'll also be talking about the other things that we learned this last half of the semester. Static and non-static variables are very important, and they're very different from one another. A static variable is one that is associated with a class, not objects of that class. They're defined at the class level and are initialized and loaded with the class itself. Also, static variables are allocated memory when the class is loaded. What this means is that when you have a certain function that you want to call that is static, you have to give it the class name. For example, if we have a function called checkTrap and it's static and it's under the trap control, but we want to use that in a location class, we must call it by saying trap control dot checkTrap and insert the parameters that are needed. That is a static class variable. A non-static variable is specific to a single instance of that class. For example, a player has a player name, or a tribute has a tribute name, and that tribute name is only within that variable, or within that class. Every time the class is called, the object has their own copy of these variables. Memory are allocated upon the object's creation. This is very important to understand, for a static and a non-static do not comply with one another. You must be sure to make sure that you call static variables correctly when needed, and same with a non-static variable. An array is a container object that holds a fixed number of values of a single type. Think of it as a list, like a grocery list. It's one that you are constantly that you make before you go shopping. Normally, you do not add nor subtract from that list. That list is fixed. The length of the array is established when the array is created, or the list of the groceries is established when the list is created. After creation, its length is fixed. Like I said, you don't normally add or subtract to your grocery list while shopping. You normally stick to your list as much as possible. You use an array when you want to use something with primitive values, and when you're making a list that does not change at all, where everything is fixed in location, placement, and any data within is used. For us, we used an array when we called upon our inventory, or some people used it actually when they called upon their inventory. We did not. We used an enum, and we use that in their attribute list. I will demonstrate the enums, for we didn't use any arrays in our program at all. However, we did use array lists. Similar to an array list is a dynamic data structure, meaning items can be added and removed from the list at any time. We use an array list when you make a list that you know you want to add or remove things from, whether it is a name or data in general. In our program, we use that while creating our inventory. Our inventory are items that were in an enum. However, using a certain function called assign items and assigning those items to certain locations, we turned it from an enum to an array list. We did this very easily in our game function. Here, as you can see, where we called public array list assign items, gave it a new name, and called it an array list. An enum is something that should be used when a variable, especially method parameters, can only take one out of a small set of possible values. Meaning, if you're only looking for calling sometimes small values out of a large list, an enum is what you want to do. Like an array, an enum cannot be added to or moved. Or removed. So you want to make sure that you're using a fixed list. We use an enum when you want to define and represent fixed set of consonants. Or, in other words, when you want to make a list with descriptions and data within that is fixed and cannot be added to or removed. We did this in our code with our attributes and with our item list. For the items, with the exception of the amount, we do not change. Our attributes, as you can see here with George, Fred, Bill, and the rest, we have their name, the district that they're from, their stats, the location on the map that they are, and the gender that they are. These are fixed. We will never move them. We will never remove them unless they die. Because of that, we used an enum. That is the difference between arrays, array list, and enums. It depends on the kind of list that you are ultimately trying to create. Here we have an example of how to find a certain index in an array list. In our code, we have a function called checkTrap and a class called trapControl. Here on the left, we have the code that you use to find a certain index in an array. We use this by first making it a static function, meaning that at any time we want to use this, all we have to do is call the trapControl class dot search list and insert the parameter types that we want to give. For this, we are making sure to receive an array list of an assigned items with the variable name assigned items. We are also making sure to receive an item name from the item class. Here on our for loop, we have the assigned items with the variable name assigned item being looped for every assigned items, which, as we know, is the array list. If our assigned item dot get item equals that item that we're looking for, then we'll return that item based on where it is in the array list. By doing this, we can search throughout our inventory to make sure that we have what we're looking for. In this code here in checkTrap, we are searching we are calling the search list function so that we can search for a specific item type of meat, which will then look to see if meat has been assigned to that area, since our assigned items are called within the map control class. If it is not there in our inventory, then it will be added to a new slot. Hence why we used an array list, for we are adding. If meat already exists in our inventory or in that array list, then we will set a new amount by adding 1 to the current amount. That is our example of finding a certain index in an array using the search list function within the trapControl class. Try and catch are very important. As we code, we can easily do a system.out.println to record any errors that need to be caught. But we want a small, simplified code. We can do this by using a try and catch statement. Try defines a block of statements that may throw an exception, which means that we will try to do a function or a certain thing. If it doesn't work out and fails, it will then go to the catch, where the catch will then try to catch a certain exception. Once it catches that exception, it will be thrown. Here, in our example, we have the trap view. As the player or end user inserts what is the slant based on the given information above. If they type in 10, it will run and try their guess by using their choice. If trapControl checkTrap 8, 6, and 10 are correct, it will lay out that the trap was successful and meat was added to your inventory. And in the previous example, we showed that meat would be added because we would search the array list and add it. It would then return the end user to the game menu view. If an exception was thrown, or if it caught something, it will demonstrate an error saying something needs to happen. And we'll catch this error using the trap control exception class, and it will print the message there. A try and catch are very important. Like I said, they catch the errors and are propagated to the proper class. In this case, in the example I made for the individual assignment, I did not have to propagate this any further, for I only had to propagate it in the view class itself, for that's where the action was being called. Character stream and byte streams are very important. A character stream are intended exclusively for character data, meaning it only has one character or one single letter or number. Most programs have done input and output only with character data, usually with keyboard as the source and the monitor as the destination. A byte stream are intended for general purpose of input and output. An example of this in our function or our program, based on the individual assignments, I did one where we are calling a character stream by asking the user where the file path they would like to print the inventory list. Once that is listed, it will then, on that file where it was listed, it will then give an inventory list with an item description, stats, and the amount. Each percentage sign that you see indicates a new set of characters. In this one, we have a new line. Here we have 20 spaces. Here we have 10 spaces for the amount. For string, we want to make sure that there's enough space for the string. 10D is an integer, meaning a number will go there, and we gave that at least 2 spots. We print this on 2 different lines. 1, so we make columns and rows, and 2, so you can easily read it. As that character stream is written out, it will get all the information that it needs, and then it will catch any exception needed. It will then print and say that you have successfully printed your inventory list, to which the end user can then go and find that file and access this list. Overall, I feel as though I have learned a lot, but I still have a long ways to go. My understanding of this class is very basic, but I feel as though it's getting better, especially these last 2 weeks, working with Brother Jackson so closely to try to finish our game. I thoroughly have enjoyed this class. It has been a great challenge to me, but overall, I feel as though I'm getting a lot better. The only regret that I have is that I wish I could have finished my game to implement and fully demonstrate. I can show you as much as I can, so that way you can actually see the programs running up. However, I cannot use any of the used items, for that is the function giving us the error. Here I will demonstrate our program for you. As I click Run, it will load up our game and start it. Well, maybe it won't start it. I guess since it cannot find that symbol in Use Item, we'll not be able to run it unless I comment it out possibly. No, sadly I cannot run my program because of these errors in the use item control. If I could, I would do as much as my program as I possibly could. I hope that you have enjoyed this presentation. Once again, I am very sorry that I could not get my final project to actually load so you could see it running as much as it possibly can. Over the weeks as I have seen it come together and come alive, I felt nothing but great joy and satisfaction. But once I learned that we were doing our items incorrectly, and I had to rewrite a lot of code, I became saddened to know that our program wasn't running. During the times that it was running, like I said, I felt nothing but happiness and joy seeing it all come together. I hope that one day I'm able to show you guys the actual product and the final rundown of our game. Thank you again for watching this presentation. Have a great day. See you later. Bye.